About a month ago, we did an episode or part of an episode, and it was organic. We didn't plan this. I think you asked a great question on airline loyalty schemes and the economics behind it.
Yeah, that's a great episode.
It was, I think, my favourite episode we've ever done, and that segment especially got incredible feedback. So we thought, we're both friends with Steve Hui, who's the best in the business. He actually runs a business to consult. We'll actually ask Steve exactly what he does, but I've been good mates with Steve for probably a decade now, I reckon. And I've learned an unbelievable amount from him. So let's get him on. He lives around the corner. He's the expert. I would love to enlighten our listeners on some of the stuff that you actually know and that can actually help you flying flat at the front of the plane for virtually no money.
Yeah. I love it. I love the... I'm an accountant. I'm Asian. I love a deal. The best deal I've ever came across using frequent flyer points to fly first in business class. It's so cheap. How cheap? $600 return to Europe. It's the cheapest you can get.
And how much is business class if you pay full whack, you reckon?
Around $12,000 to $15,000. So imagine you can save over $10,000 every single trip you fly. Like, why would you fly economy?
So there aren't many $20 bills lying on the ground in life. Like they call it arbitrages. The arbitrages where you make a riskless profit in some ways. How is it possible that some people, you and I, are using points to fly flat and other people like Adir is paying 20 grand for first class? How are we so different?
Well, I have to say someone has to pay the 20 grand. Otherwise the plane has to fly.
Yeah, I'm not paying 20 grand.
So
as if I would pay 20 grand.
So I like the people who pay full price as much as I like the people who use on points because someone has to pay for the plane to fly. And then the frequent flyer people piggyback on the back of the fact that the plane's already flying and there are some empty seats. So my background is I'm an accountant, CPA, worked at Macquarie, and I love how you can make something out of nothing. So the sheer basis of frequent flyer points is the cost is less than the value. So the cost of getting the points and then swapping those same points for the business class seat is less than half the price.
Yeah.
But people don't understand. And I don't know why they don't understand, but I've narrowed it down a couple of things. You probably require 4 levels of calculations to get to the answer. And most people stop at 2.
Yeah.
Let me ask one question before we go into the detail of that, which is this idea that someone has to pay for the expensive seats. And we had a conversation about the economics of how frequent flyer programs work. Do you think someone still has to pay in order to make this viable? Or do you think that given the economics of this industry and the way the points are bought and sold, actually all of the seats could be filled in the premium classes on planes and it would still be economically viable?
Probably not.
Do you think someone has to pay some ridiculous equivalent cost per point? Because you could translate it into a cost per point.
Everything's cost per point, and Steve will talk about it in a second. But if you think about the original reason frequent flyer points existed is airlines had empty seats. They didn't want to sell it for $100. So you got a plane about to fly and there's 5 seats, 3 seats in business, 3 seats in economy, so 6 seats left. You could sell those seats for $100. It's profitable because it's going to be a zero. But airlines don't want to do that because people just won't buy. Stuff's at their economics. They want people buying early, not late.
They did do it as selling upgrades for $100.
Upgrades different because you're already locked in.
I know, but that is one way they filled the seats. Originally, and they a bit still. I'm sure Steve will talk about that. But they said to economy passengers, you can pay this very cheap rate to upgrade to business, but what they're giving up is the certainty of flying business class, right?
Which is annoying. Plus, you can't do that with economy. So most frequent flyer redemptions are economy.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point. That's a good point.
The reason why airlines did it is
Steve's allergic to economy frequent flyer points, I suspect, but we'll get to it.
Yeah. But the reason why airlines did it originally is they didn't want it. They had these seats. They want to discount it. Frequent flyer points is a way to discount seats without really discounting. You're hiding the discount. Plus, you're giving that discount to your most loyal customers.
Yeah.
And you give it. So obviously it's changed. Steve
sense.
will talk about. Let's go now. So let's go through his 4 calculations.
Yeah. So in broad terms, like for example, flying Europe business class, you need about 300,000 points. So every single airline charges a little different amount, but average 300,000 points.
Is one way.
It's a return, 300,000 points.
Okay.
Yeah.
For one person. 300,000 person return.
Business class.
So keep in mind to buy that same ticket is anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000 anytime. The magic is these days, well, actually, before you used to be able to only earn points by flying. So in order for you to earn 300,000 points, you had to do a lot of bumps on seats flying. But about 15 years ago, they started issuing points via credit cards. So if you spent money on certain credit cards, Amex, Visa, whatever, they gave you points for your custom. And that's become hugely profitable for the airlines to sell their points to the partners to the credit card companies and give to you. So what I've worked out is the sheer numbers that you can basically score 300,000 points at 2 cents each, which means it's $6,000. So for example, you spend $300,000, get 300,000 points. Transaction cost of 2%. So 300,000 points equals $6,000. Add some ticket taxes when you book it, and you can swap that for $15,000.
This is using like a pay.com.au, for example, or put it on Amex and getting charged that Amex fee essentially, or the credit card fee.
Yeah. So most people say, well, I'll never use my card if there's a transaction cost, which is true, which is great because if you can collect up enough points for free, that's the cheapest.
Yeah.
But most people can't. It's very hard to collect 300,000 points purely for 0%.
Your kind of mathematical business case on this is you can arbitrage a $15,000 seat for $6,000 plus a few transaction fees.
Correct. Yeah. On repeat. Yeah.
Or if you can somehow get points for free by using Facebook or whatever. So if you're a business owner and you put your Facebook, it gets to a point where they stop allowing anymore. But if you're a small business owner, you're putting 10 grand a month on Facebook or 20 grand a month on Facebook, that's 300,000 points a year and you're not paying any transaction costs.
Well, I tell you, I mean, you'll love this, Steve. So, so I tell you what I've done historically in my businesses. So you got all of these search and social paid channels.
Yep.
And you don't really, ideally you would never pay for the cost of that, but unfortunately that's not how business works. You have to pay them eventually.
Yeah.
So the two things I try and do is figure out how can I pay the least possible and also how can I take as long as possible to pay it. That's ideal because then you can run negative cash conversion and receive the money for the thing that you ran the ad for before you have to pay for the ad. And so you can get accounts with Google and they'll give you 30 days or whatever it is. And so what I've done for years, and we're talking about millions of dollars a year of ad spend, is they take almost anything, Google and Facebook, and so you go and just whip out an Amex, and you can't pay less, but you can get something in return, and what you get is effectively free business class or first class trips for life when you're doing this. And instead of paying in 30 days, you're paying 45 days or better, right?
Yeah.
And so I think people that are buying paid media and not putting it on credit cards, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah. It's really,
and presumably that's what
TV, radio, broadcast.
Right, yeah. And so presumably that's a big source of points for people that you deal with from like the self-employed industries with online businesses is they put their spend on.
All types of expenses now. So what you talked about is one way to get a lot of cheap points, but now you can pay rent, you can pay wages.
You can use pay.com. I'm a shareholder in pay.com.au, so disclose that. And I'm a very small shareholder.
So explain that.
So pay.com, and there are other people who do this as well. Pay probably, so Damien Waller backed it, and Ed Alder's the CEO and the founder. Ed's a great guy.
I select founder.
Next to Ed this year, so Ed's done a great job. These guys are growing absolutely like gangbusters, but you can pay anything, your tax, your school fees, whatever. They take a tiny cut. You obviously pay the credit card fee, but I think it's around 2%.
That's right, maximum,
And the downside risk, there's a few other of those businesses, B2B, pay. I'm not trying to call out the competitors. Should use pay.com.au, but the downside risk with those we should flag is if the company did go broke between them charging you and then on forwarding the money. You, like, let's say you paid the ATO, the tax office, they charge you and then they remit it to the ATO and charge a fee. If they went broke and weren't holding the money in trust, which presumably they're not, between you paying them and them paying the ATO, you'd be very unlucky, but you would lose the money. You'd be an unsecured creditor in that business.
Which is why you want a more reputable.
That's right.
Which, like pay.com.
And I'm not suggesting I go broke. Like Damien built iSelect. He's a reputable guy. But I mean, those businesses have been revolutionary, right, Steve?
Yeah. Well, actually, on that point, then because you're paying on a credit card, you have a chance to have a chargeback because what you bought
exactly.
never got delivered.
Well, that's actually a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, that's an excellent point.
You're protected.
Yeah. Well, you see, when it's just me and you, I can get away with saying these kind of things that are semi-true. But Steve will just pull me up instantly. I can see that point immediately.
So I think whenever I've spoken to you over the years, there's sort of two things you've taught me really well is one, what credit card to use and when to use it. So kind of the same thing. So it's the earning the points and then there's the spending the points. There's two separate education pieces one needs to go through to understand how to work this.
Yeah, that's right. The two halves are really important because earning seems easy and obviously there's a bit of calculation behind the earning, but the spending, every single airline is a little bit different. So, you know, a lot of people actually had a call earlier today. They said, "Oh, which is the best airline program I should go for?" Well, the answer actually is, where do you want to go? Because whether it's Qantas, Virgin, Singapore, Qatar, or Emirates, they all fly to different destinations, and they all charge a different number of points to fly there. They all charge different taxes, but most importantly, they all have different seat availability. So if you're looking to fly, say, a family of 4 or 6, there's only one airline in the world that will ever have 6 business class seats.
SQ?
SQ or maybe Emirates.
Emirates, you're paying 12 grand cash though. We'll talk about that in a second.
Or no, points wise, to get 4 or 6 business class seats in one crack. But if you just had Qantas
Emirates
points,
charge that
I think Adam's
2,000 fees.
Oh, well,
I think
Emirates
Adam's
charge
complaining about Emirates' fees.
Emirates has high fees at the moment.
Don't get me started on that.
It might not be forever.
Yeah.
But if people are collecting, say, 10 million Qantas points and trying to find 6 business class seats, they can be looking till they die.
They can find 6 business class seats. They'll just be on 6 different flights.
I think you're struggling to find that.
Maybe you could be right.
That's good
Although
to get
I did notice when I checked Qantas in the last few days.
Better?
Well, I didn't check points for this as it happened. I checked pay because I got to do a catapult trip. But they're heavily on sale at the moment, Qantas, on their business and premium.
I think
their
everything
premium
is, not
classes.
just Qantas. Yeah.
So definitely something has changed in the market.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
There's a lot more supply.
Qantas on sale, that didn't happen for 2 years.
Yeah. No, there's a lot more. And Qantas
So that's good news for
back.
that's good news for points.
Can I just quickly just touch on the first leg of the stool there is, so we talked about earning points through like your pay.coms, putting your business expenses through. Yeah, and then the other one for people who don't have a business, which a lot of people do, is that, you sign up to a new car, you get 100,000 points and you can go one. What do you think of that? Is that worthwhile doing?
It's worthwhile doing because you think about the options available to you. So as a business owner, it's clear they've got lots of expenses, but as an individual, what other option do you have? You can go to Coles and buy gift cards and get promos, but it would take you yonks to get 300,000 points, and if you had a family, you will never get the numbers.
Yeah.
So therefore, getting a sign up for bonus credit card is so attractive because they're throwing 100,000 points to you, 50,000 points to you. Interesting, I noticed in about 5 years ago, ANZ started offering their frequent flyer card, 100,000 points or 150,000 points, first year annual fee free. And that was the turning point for the Australian industry. They single-handedly taught people to sign up and then throw the card away.
Yeah, mate. But I did read you interviewed for like the Herald Sun or something in the last few days on exactly this topic, and you said, maybe it's not the wisest idea to sign up for like 6 cards a year because that may not be looked on that favourably. But obviously banks are going to say you shouldn't do this because it's going to affect your credit score. But we know lenders are sophisticated now. They're going to say, what did you do with the card and how many are outstanding? So, so we got to ask him. Like, he came in with his big sales pitch, which is you can fly to Europe for $600. We've got Mike and Keelan as producers.
Yeah.
They're going to shoot us if we don't ask him how you fly to Europe for $600 in business class. So give us your pitch, Steve. How do you fly to Europe for $600 in business class?
Yeah, so the formula of using points to fly is the points plus taxes, ticket taxes. So the first part is how much does it cost you to get those points? In some cases, for example, if you got paying expenses like Google, Facebook, and SaaS services, you can earn points at zero cost. Mm-hmm. So you could potentially pick up 300,000 points.
And do the credit card switch thing, 100,000 here, 100,000 there.
So you get a sign up for 100,000 points, pay bills, collect them up. And for example, Singapore business class is only 308,000 points return to anywhere in Europe.
That's if you get there's different, there's saver and there's, so you got to get lucky to get 4 saver fares, but it's doable.
Oh, well, 261,000 return is the saver level.
Yeah.
And 308 is the advantage.
Oh, really?
The more expensive one. So the top price. And then a ticket
You're
taxes.
You're the most honest sales guy I've ever come across. Like, there's actually a cheaper way to do something and a more expensive way to do something, and the cheaper way is harder. And so he quotes you the number for the more expensive way. This is the most honest guy we've ever had. It's the most honest person you've ever had associated with any business that you've ever known. Is Steve.
I
go with the most conservative case. Yes. You can never go wrong.
Yeah, that's the Asian finance guy in you.
Under promise, over deliver. That's what he does.
Yeah. So therefore, you just pay for your taxes and you fly return for $600.
Well, I mean, like, people are crazy if they don't do it. And so you got to tell us this though about your your business. We should say not only are you the most honest sales guy ever, but you're also the most aggressive marketer ever, because you're in here wearing a merch T-shirt, which is quite good. Which is what, one of those fire danger risks. It says chance of flying business class extreme.
I love that.
You must like that.
I didn't notice it. Now I looked at it.
Your only complaint is that he didn't bring one for you, and then you've got your what's your cap you got here.
I've got a hat.
Merch for you.
He's got a cap for us.
Merch.
There you go, billion
Should we
points
wear it?
club. I've never had a billion points.
Aspirational.
Aspirational. I'm going to just do it for the video, and then I can't.
Yeah.
There you go.
How good is that?
Just for the video. Oh,
You got the video?
good.
There you
I
go.
think just to point it. So
I can't keep this hat on.
I talked about Emirates
I
before.
find hat caps very uncomfortable.
Don't worry. So Emirates actually now charge. So during COVID, there's always a bit of a quid pro quo. So talk about Qantas. The problem with Qantas, everybody's got Qantas. One of the dumbest things Australians do, and this is not criticism of Qantas, by the way. This is Qantas genius. This is the seven powers, the power of brand.
Yes.
Qantas, 80% of Australians get their points directly, sweep it straight into Qantas. Like, impossible to get business class in Qantas. When I was in my brief period...
Do you mean they sign up for credit cards that are linked to the Qantas
basically,
frequent flyer program?
or just implicitly transfer to Qantas manually, but one of the two.
Yeah.
So 80% of people do that. But the problem is the supply and demand. So everybody's trying to get these limited Qantas seats.
Yeah.
Qantas don't even fly that much. They only got a handful. They fly to LA and London and Singapore, but they don't fly that many places. Good luck trying to... When I was Chairman's Lounge for a bit, I was trying to get 4 business class flights back from LA to Melbourne. I had to get Alan Joyce's approval to get these bloody...
Yes.
So forget about it. Like,
You told us
and he didn't give it to us.
You've told us previously you didn't get his approval.
I didn't get his approval.
Which I said was the turning point of your true hatred for Alan Joyce.
It's not so much hatred. I thought it was a terrible CEO.
You thought that was the worst. In
No,
all of
like,
the bad decisions
I
he has
reckon-
made as a CEO, that was the worst decision he's ever made as a
praised
CEO.
him even after that. But then I stopped praising him. But so if you get out Qantas, if you want to try and redeem business class, Qantas is basically impossible unless you're Stephen looking like 30 times a day, and nobody can do that except for Steve's team. So then you look at the other airlines. Singapore is really good, but you need a bit of advance, but it's a bit of advance notice, but there's cheap taxes, so that's really good there. Qatar is pretty good, but they only let you book 2 tickets at a time, so it's a bit frustrating. Emirates is really easy to get tickets. They charge you $2,000 in taxes now.
Yes.
So for family of 4, $8,000 one way, $16,000 return. It's almost what you're paying for business class anyway half the time.
Oh,
So,
still cheaper than paying.
yeah, it's a
So
little
that's what you're paying for one seat, or maybe 2 seats.
But remember, you're also using points which have an implicit cost. So because you can worst case cash them out at 1 cent a point, pretty much. So points I'll pay 0.6, but assume you can get 1 cent anywhere easily at economy. So that's got a cost. So Emirates, to me, maybe the Emirates team will go back and make it more reasonable. But to me, it's actually unusable to use Emirates now for frequent, unless you're so desperate to fly business, can't do anything else.
Or one way, you've already got seats going over there, and you need a one-way seat back. I think this is temporary because Emirates is basically taking a fact.
I don't know how you found I don't know how you found a question in what Adam said. It was like the people when they say, "Are there any questions from the audience?" And then one guy, always 75 years old, gets up and gives this long dissertation about his views because no one's listened to him for 15 years, and there's no question. I don't know. You found a question in what he said. That is highly commendable.
Yeah, so your question.
No, he's not answer. So he thinks. What are you saying? Emirates is the way to go, or what do you think of Emirates?
Usable now is my question.
Well, I think Emirates is usable because of the taxes are so high, people are avoiding to book it, means that they do have seats. And that's still better. Is end of the day, it's all about not about which one's cheaper, which one compared to buying a cash ticket is cheaper. It still saves you money. You still got points and you still got to go.
You should book Emirates first if you're going to book with points.
You can't get points flights.
Can't you?
Maybe 2. You can never get 4.
Well, you don't need your kids in there with you, do you?
I can't. I'll probably murder me in my sleep if I.
You know what would happen if you booked 2 business and 2 first is you'd be sitting in business with one of your kids.
Which is what happened. I managed to get 2. I think it was SQ on the way back last year, and I booked. Sometimes first is cheaper than business. You know, get that anomaly where because there's different tiers, the first year can be cheaper than business tiers. I got 2 first class, or sometimes there's no business and there's first class because nobody checks first. So I managed to get 2 first and 2 business back, and my daughter and wife were in first, and my son. I think that's how we slice and dice. So we gave my son a present to compensate.
Whatever was the case, I'm certain that it was not you in first and your wife in business.
100%.
Okay. By the way, I've been through that experience, and I happily did that because it means I've got less to worry about because other people are being taken care of very well, and it's not my problem.
I've got a story. My mate was flying with his, they're not married anymore, but with his wife at the time back from LA, I think it was. And this person works at a big investment bank. He was Platinum 1. And so I think they booked economy tickets. They upgraded him to business. I think there was a first on that flight. They upgraded him to business, and they didn't upgrade her, and he couldn't switch it because like it's in your name. It was him because he was Platinum 1. So he got upgraded, and she didn't. I think she was actually pretty good about it. She sat in economy. He was in business. At one point, she then walked up to say hi to him. And in there was like Chris Hemsworth and all Chris Hemsworth's crew, and she's gone off. So this guy,
that was the end of the marriage right there.
And they're now no longer married, but it was a.
And so I look at some of your LinkedIn posts, Steve, and I'm not on social media much, but I do see my assumption from those photos would be that when there's a first ticket available, you do take the first ticket. Is that right?
As in, you mean
when you're using points and there's a business ticket and a first ticket available, you will go for the first ticket. Is that right?
Sure. I think life is too short to keep flying business class. If you can fly first.
Oh god, this is severe travel inflation problems going on.
Also,
here.
First is a better ratio, so you're getting like often a 6-7 to 1 on.
You're getting so much bang for value, and like you said, I'm into value. So anything that has great value, I'll go for.
The argument against that, and this is what my co-founder Jez has argued over the years, is that yes, business costs 12 or 15 grand, but really we're not going to pay. It's mostly businesses paying that. Someone else pays
Someone's
that,
paying for
or
it.
you're super super rich. But it's pretty rare
that an individual,
a normal person pays that much. It's having a little bit more now if you're a bit older or whatever. But so yes, we value. I know you and I calculate the points per seat and look at this versus that. But really, we're inflating the points per the cents per point because we're not really going to pay that in the first place. Is there merit to that argument?
Yeah, there is, because the value is in the eye of the beholder. So if you were not going to pay 10, not going to pay 12, but max you might pay 6, the value of the points does drop a bit. But at the end of the day, having the points just gives you the ability to fly business class. Because if you could fly business class and you could fly economy, why would you fly economy? Like, why would you actually fly economy? Just to get the feel of people kicking your seat?
I like your answer was totally honest at the beginning, and then Adam gave you his justification. Then you went for that, but his answer was an emotional answer.
Yeah,
life is too short to not fly. I think his answer was life is too short to fly business. I mean, maybe don't put that on a t-shirt, it's much nicer. I'll tell you why I think it's nicer not to fly economy. And then you found a way to rationally justify flying it because you don't want to use the emotional argument, which I understand, by the way.
I'm going to give the reverse argument to that. That's more Jez's argument than mine. I think my corollary to that is you kind of forget about the 6,000. You naturally assume the highest price for business when you're flying it, and it's it's about that sort of emotional thing. And I think what's the best meal you can get is a free meal, like my Richard Goyder lunch from Adir. Yep. The best thing you can get is a flight that you haven't paid for. And I know points have value, but it feels like you're not really paying for it.
And a free meal on board.
Yeah, and the free meal on board. So that makes it more special that the person next to you, the Adir next to me has paid 18 grand. Yep. I've paid 0, and that makes me feel even better.
Yep.
You're defaming me so badly on this podcast.
It's a little bit like buying shares. You buy it at this price, and the next day it's gone up. You're like, yeah, best idea ever. So the fact is, everyone always checks the price of the seat that they've got. And whatever price, it just makes them feel good. And I guess in life is anything that makes you feel good is a winner.
I'll tell you why I think it's better to fly business or first class and economy in a second.
Forgetting points is just generally.
This is why I think you should use points, and then I'll tell you why I think whenever you cannot fly economy, you shouldn't. And it is a real reason. It's not some bullshit reason. But I think you should use points because I was around when Ansett went broke. And I was very young.
You should use your points, don't just accumulate them.
I lost all those points.
Yeah.
Also, there's this endless points inflation that goes on, which I'm not even sure it should be lawful to just jack up or jack down the ratio. Absolutely. It shouldn't be lawful, right?
100%.
Like, people have got a particular value. Yeah, and so I'm not sure it should be lawful, but it happens all the time.
2 months ago with Singapore and Emirates.
Yes, exactly. The ratios just get ruined time and over time. No one ever says, we're going to make your points worth more. And actually, there's no reason economically to devalue points, right? It's not like it's like societal inflation, because societal inflation happens within the points system. It's already being factored in.
Charge more for points. That's fine. Nobody objects to charging more per flight for points. We object to when Amex, and they've done it multiple times, just halve the value.
That's right. And so I think if you've got something that's free, you should use it.
Yeah.
Because the value of it is not going to go up over time, that's for sure. So that's why I think you should use points.
I think the challenge is using points is hard. And this is where Steve's business actually is really good in that try and use Qantas, almost forget about it. But people don't think of Qatar, Singapore. And you've come up with, so I was going to, where did you help me
Well, I
recently?
don't fly Qatar Airlines. I just emphasise that again.
For personal reasons. But I was going somewhere. I was going to Bali, and Bali is quite hard because you got basically mostly 737s. It's not really business class, but Garuda flies a 350 or 330, which has flat beds. I said to Steve, how the hell can I get Garuda flights? I wasn't paying him for this, but I should have been. And Steve sends me an article saying, you can go via, because they're part of, what's the Sky Alliance?
Sky Team, yeah.
Sky Team, which is the third. So you got One World, which is the
I hate that alliance, Sky Team.
Yeah, well, it's the others.
It's the other alliance, yeah.
It's all this. It's Garuda. It's who else is in there?
China Airlines, which is the Taiwanese airline. They're in there in Sky Team.
Eva's in there. Delta's
is Eva in there? I thought.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. China Airlines is in Star Alliance. One of them's in that one, and one of them's in Star, and none of them are in One World. That's my problem with the Taiwanese airlines.
Yeah. But anyway, so I said to Steve, what can I do? And he goes, he sent me the article and he said, if you've got points, you can go, maybe go through Etihad. But Etihad, I find Etihad absolutely the worst in terms of points. It costs a lot. You can never get flights. Can't even log into the site because it's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, it's a
two-factor authentication thing. But I said, hold on, Delta's in there as well. I had Delta points in my old City card like 10 years ago. And I banged through some Delta points and got business class to Bali, 4 tickets, like in a second.
There's so many ways because the airline system's so complicated. They've got the alliances, the One World, Sky Team, Star Alliances, but then they have their own individual partnerships and they all mishmash across each other. So therefore, that means that if you got points of one airline, you can actually get seats on another airline, especially something that's a bit obscure as well.
Yeah.
You basically have access to the whole world if you have a whole bunch of different points.
Yeah.
And I guess the challenge we find in Australia, everyone just loves getting one type of currency and just don't want to turn around and have a look at some of the amazing stuff.
So what Steve basically taught me is, which credit cards do you use?
Yeah.
So try and use Amex versus other cards generally. There are some other bank cards that probably aren't so bad, but use Amex. I generally keep my points mostly in Amex. Just flick it. Now you get it almost instantaneously, so you can keep it in Amex and flick it. But I keep a little bit in each airline. But you can, Amex has like 12 parts. I've actually got a US Amex as well, which gives you even more
How'd you get that?
We've got a US entity.
But don't you, when you were applying for it, this would be a very popular question for the listener base. Don't you need a US address? And
we've got a US business which has a US address.
But that's not your US address.
It's a business card. It's not Adam Shaw. It's Adam Shaw.
I see.
Card.
Okay, that's very smart.
So at one point I was actually you used to be able to get, the only way you used to be able to redeem on Qatar was via BA, because Avios is a company and they runs the frequent flyer programs for a bunch of businesses like Iberian, Qatar and BA. And they may have an interest in that business. So the only way I used to be able to get Qatar points was I transferred my Amex US points to BA. You couldn't do Australian Amex. Then my BA to Qatar, so it was like a triple roundabout. But I couldn't do it. I was trying. I couldn't. I called BA, they were useless. Called Qatar, they were useless. Well, then the card person goes, hold on, I can transfer it here. I said, huh? I was going to this blank screen. And I realised they geo-blocked Australia. So I used the VPN. So nobody in Australia had ever redeemed the Qatar point till recently. They did an Amex thing. And I was the only one, because I was using the VPN. I was the only one to ever do it from Australia, because clearly the site didn't even work. So, and nobody could understand when I called these airlines. So you had to work out these sort of backdoor tricks by getting foreign card. Like, it used to be maybe you can get a credit card in Qatar or this US BA Amex hack thing, but now it's easier. But what you told me is which credit cards to get and to leave it in the credit card and not to transfer it to Qantas, essentially. Transfer to Qantas if you need to, but otherwise don't. And then what your real value add is, and people pay you for this, and maybe talk about your business model in a second, but you have a team of experts and yourself, obviously, to just know how to find those seats that the average mortal can't find.
Yeah, that's right. So finding frequent flyer seats is like fishing, I call it. Every single day it changes. So every single day there's new availability. And then when you think about every single airline has their own availability, how many moving parts there is. And then you got different airlines that can use their points to fly on each other. And also, one of the things you mentioned is like when you go call the airline, they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because they are not specialists. Most of the time, they're probably agents just doing random queries, and we're coming with a very specialised question. Can you use these points to fly on airline ABC? And they're like, well, which airline is that? They don't even know that they're partners most of the time.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where we come in. So we love doing this. There's nothing floats our boat better than finding a seat on a seat that can't be found.
Well, the dopamine hit of finding for business class or even first class seats for points is unbelievable.
So it's interesting. By the way, if you need a Qatari credit card, I'm sure the Hamas leaders have got Qatari credit cards. So I want to tell you why I'm so in favour of flying premium. And then I want to ask you a question about your business,
So
Steve.
premium is in business or first, not premium.
Yeah, that's right. When you take a long flight, and this has been my experience, and you're flying in economy, it's pretty much an ordeal because the airline doesn't really want to service you. Like they reluctantly will let you fly with them because you've paid, but you haven't paid much. And the level of care that they have for you, you could work out, you work out frequent flyer points and you turn it into a dollar value, but I could work out airline care and turn it into a dollar value and say, how much care do you get for the $1,000 you paid in economy versus how much care do you get for the $10,000 business class ticket? And you get a lot more than 10 times the care for the business class ticket. And so it's an ordeal, especially as you get older when you're flying in economy. Look, it's not terrible. It's better than not flying. And I do not want to be cancelled for white privilege, okay? But
This could be our last episode.
but it's not very pleasant. And if things go wrong and you miss connections or whatever it is, like it can be pretty difficult to solve that problem. The minute you move into a premium cabin, that travel experience turns from something you just want to survive and get through to part of your holiday experience.
That's true.
And I think that is the best argument for using points to fly these premium cabins, business and first. If you go and you can use your points to fly first class to wherever you're going, then part of the holiday that you will remember with your partner will be the flight. That will be part of the holiday. And if you're flying economy, points paid, whatever it is, then that is just something you have to get through to get to your holiday.
Absolutely.
That is my biggest argument of why I do it. Because
Absolutely agree.
that's how I feel about it. How does a guy that works at Macquarie, your wife is also a high flyer, right?
Yes.
So how does someone that works at Macquarie and had a good job there and was earning good money go and quit all of that and somehow you're earning a good living doing this and this is paying your bills? Like, just before you, like the question I'm most interested in is, talk to me about the demand for this and who's using your services and like, why is this such a good business?
It's such a, well, I'll tell you how I got started. I actually got a voluntary redundancy after 11 years at Macquarie.
Yes.
So they gave me a brown paper bag of money and said, thanks very much. And I'm like, thank you very much. Now, so it took 6 months off. And then this idea came to me in that break.
Right.
So there was no direct transition. The people that use us is, number one, anyone who's got points already, accumulated somehow, and business owners.
So anyone who's got a certain number of points should use you. What number do you think?
Probably at least 300,000 points.
Okay, not that many.
Not that many.
Per person or couple?
Per person, because then 300,000 points gets you a return business class to Europe.
Yeah.
And then obviously anywhere in between.
But you can do that, as you just said. You can go and find a couple of good credit card deals, sign-up deals, do them, and then call Steve, basically.
Then we can help you, and for a success fee, we'll find the flights and we'll book them for you, and then you take off. The customers we most like to help, and we most do help, are business owners. Because I always think about, well, how do you keep earning points? So for the individual who signs up credit cards, they might only have enough points for one flight every 2 years and happy, but they're not coming back that often. But business owners, I just see the opportunity because they've got all these bills to pay. So they can continue to reoccurring points on a massive scale, some big, some small. That means that we can book flights from them every year, and I'll get sent photos of them in champagne, drinking free champagne.
Whenever I see comments under your posts on LinkedIn, people are like, your NPS would be 100. Like, people are in love with the service that you provide.
Your service isn't free. You've got staff to pay and expertise. So how does the business model work? You charge, because you've changed it a little bit over the years. So what's your current, because you charge, this is like effectively a reward fee for you to find them.
So we charge $950 each way for business class seats to find them. So there's no fee if we don't deliver. So it's only a success fee. And what that means is that if you have the points and you want to say go to Europe, paying us say $1,900 return per person plus taxes is hell of a lot cheaper than $10,000 or $15,000 cash price. So we still save them a whole chunk of money, 2.5.
And the time. So you save much time, because even the best, like you've taught me a lot, and I spend hours and hours on this stuff. So if you're a Adir whose time's very valuable, then it makes sense to pay you a couple of grand, because you're going to spend 5 hours and so time, let alone the fact that most people can't even do what you guys do because you actually know where to look.
Yeah, and plus you have to like it, because Adam, I know you like it, so you search for it. But if you didn't like it, imagine forcing yourself to search.
It can be frustrating because I'll often search 30, 40, 50 different routes, different airlines, and you're striking out. It's actually pretty demoralising until you find the right one.
You and I believe Ruslan Kogan have got the two largest spreadsheets on planet Earth for frequent flyer points.
My tactic is usually I book super early. So I'll as soon as it opens, often to the minute, I'll jump on and book it.
Like my God, you're so organised, Adam.
I booked a London to Malé. So Malé's capital Maldives. I'm going there in July. BA fly twice a week off season, more regularly on season. And BA, to get to Maldives from UK is really annoying if you're not flying BA because you got to go like Qatar, Dubai, whatever. It's you got to stay overnight.
Yeah.
It's
Or Singapore,
but that's way out of the way. But BA did it straight overnight. Amazing flight. It's the perfect flight, and it's a really good air. I think it's a new 787 they use or a 350. It's a good flight, a good plane. They give best case 4 business seats for the flight. You don't get those. You don't jump on with a minute and over. You just won't get it because some other person in London's doing the same thing. So it's a bit of it's a race, and so you've got to be really well organised. So I book my trips a year out. I'll discuss with where we're going to go, and we'll book it. So as soon as I can, I'll book it. Whenever I leave it late, and I'm telling my mum I'll try and book her a flight sometimes, and she'll always leave it last minute. I say, well, just tell me earlier, and I'll get it for you. But if you leave it for a month before, I can never get it.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
But that's the thing about using points is about understanding how the system works. So don't put your cash purchase methodology onto your point system because you got to clash and you could be disappointed. So the other part of our service is the planning service. Is that every year people want to go somewhere, but they don't think about it until they're about to go. So you think 2024, you must have in your ideas, I want to go Europe, I want to go here, but maybe you might want to go June, maybe you might want to go September, but most people don't even get around to it till closer. If you do that with points, then you're struggling because you've left it too late. But if you could think about it earlier, and that's what we do. So we plan your travels, we work out how many points you need, and then we look at your business expenses, how can you earn them, which cards should you get, how you should pay your bills. And basically now you've got a system that's earning points, using points, and you never have to fly economy again. That's sort of our motto.
Yeah.
Never fly economy again.
I think on that note, we really do have to wrap it up. Steve, you've been brilliant.
Thank you.
Adir, you've always brilliant. And quick, how do people find you if you want to get those business class seats?
iFLYFlat.com.au, and we'll find them for you.
I strongly recommend. I've used your service for many years, and obviously you've helped me out many times.